What? No, since 8 o'clock I've been on the phone, and I was just thinking about calling you, but I am on a Zoom call, and they muted me, so I'm glad you called. Hello? Hello?
Hi, Representative Fox. We'll get started in 1 second.
But and I don't show up on the video. I don't know what, that doesn't matter. I've got a face for radio, not a face for TV. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. It shows that your video's on.
That's okay. I don't care. I mean, I don't see it, but that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Hey, Ray.
Good morning.
Thank you all for joining. We'll get started here shortly.
Hey, Sarah. Is that Sarah?
It is. How are you?
I am great, thanks.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't even see you, Miss Virginia. I hear you now.
I know I'm not popping up on the screen. They said it shows up, but I told them I have a face for radio, not a face for TV.
I feel the same.
Fox, is your camera covered up maybe? Do you have a little
I don't
slider?
know what the problem is.
I'm sorry.
Oh, wait. I think my camera fell off. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Ah, yes.
Oh,
there you are.
there it is. Now, I don't know how to get it up there. Hold on a minute. Oh, there we are. No wonder you couldn't see me.
Much better.
I love the technology we have when it works, you know.
Yep.
I do too.
Are you guys about to head out to Raleigh? Are y'all meeting tonight?
We are. I'm headed out right after lunch.
And I'll probably head out after lunch as well. Sometimes it's hurry up and wait.
I envy your predictable schedule. Ours is totally unpredictable. I just got off the phone with Madison Cawthorn. Frustrated. We're all frustrated at these schedules we've got.
It would be nice to have nice set schedules are a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
All right, you're right.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the High Country Council of Governments 2021 Virtual Legislative Day. I'm Valerie James, the chairwoman of the High Country Council of Governments Executive Board, and we are so glad you could join us, and we look forward to hearing from our panelists shortly. First, I would like to ask Dennis Aldridge to lead us in prayer, and then I will lead us in the pledge. So go ahead, Mr. Dennis.
Can you hear me? I'm not sure my mic is working.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Lord, we're grateful to you for this day that you give us here in this beautiful high country region. We're thankful for the responsibility that we have as elected officials to be about the life and changing events of the people that are in our charge. We pray that you give us wisdom today as we learn about the things that affect the people that we serve every day. Lord, we're grateful for the grace and the beauty that you give us. It's such a beautiful place to live, and we appreciate that and all the work that goes into this area. And Lord, we pray your wisdom and your discernment and your blessings upon all that takes place today, and it will be used for your glory alone. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. And now if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, it's attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now I'm going to turn it over to our vice chairman and let him introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to see some familiar faces. I'm Todd McNeil, Vice Chairman of the High Country Council of Government Executive Board, and we're really excited to be hosting this event this morning. I'll give a quick summary of how the event will unfold. Our panelists will each give their legislative statement during their allotted time on the agenda, and we want this webinar to run as smoothly and as on time as possible. We know we've got a lot of busy people on the screen, and that will, the more efficient we are, the more time we have for the Q&A at the end. So during that Q&A session, Valerie and I will read any questions that were submitted and through the chat, and we ask that you use the raise your hand feature on Zoom, and we will keep our eyes out, and we've got Victoria working behind the scenes and try to get everybody turned on in order and as efficiently as possible. So first of all, let's go ahead and get started, and I'm proud to introduce my friend, Representative Virginia Fox. Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to see all of you this morning and see longtime friends. We don't say old friends, but longtime friends. And I've known Valerie, I've known Dennis almost since they were born. So that's way too long to think about, but am pleased to see them and to be with y'all this morning. I'm glad this worked out this way. I'll tell you, I have a full slate of Zoom and webcast calls this morning, and all day actually goes to about 4 o'clock this afternoon. So as I was saying before, our schedules are pretty tight. One of the frustrating things to me in the last year has been the shutdown because of COVID, and also the difficulty in getting out to see people, but grateful for the opportunity for us to stay in touch because of these technologies. I didn't prepare a script for this morning, but you all know that we've been sort of consumed in the last 3 months in DC with legislation. Much of it has been, in my opinion, not very positive for the country, but it's getting passed because we operate on a majority system in this country. We are a republic, and the representatives there have the opportunity to vote for what they want. I am going to be back in touch with you in a more formal way to ask you how you plan to spend the money that was appropriated in this last piece of legislation, because there is a lot of money coming out, and I'd like to have some understanding of what the counties and towns are going to do with those funds. We always do everything we can to help you with grant funds. Our office writes letters on your behalf. We'll help you search for grant funds for various projects. A lot of the money that's coming out now, I think might have an impact on grant funds coming down later. It's a little hard to know what's going to happen. But as I said, that's a lot of money coming into the counties and towns. I actually had a town manager call me just before this last bill was passed to say, what in the world are we going to do with all this money? We're operating on a very good budget right now. And generally, you create friction when there's too much money. And there's a lot of disagreement about how to spend it. I didn't ever serve on a commissioner's board, but I did serve on the school board. And so I understand a lot about what this person was saying. But when you have county managers worried that too much money is coming into a county, that gives me a lot of pause to think. So I will be talking with all of you all, or at least sending some letters to you asking about that. I'm not sure what the state's planning to do. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody there. But what I want you to know primarily from me is that our office is there to help you with issues as they relate to the federal government. I get a lot of mail from people asking me to intervene in local issues. I want to tell you that I do not do that. I refer people to you. I refer people to school boards. I get a lot of letters about things that are happening in the education system and asking me to do something about them. And I refer them to the superintendents and the school board members. I'll do the same thing when it comes to legislators. My legislative friends know that. And I'll send them to county commissioners, the chairs of the county commissioners and the county managers. I have plenty to say grace over. And so I refer people to you when it's appropriate. But we have a new district director, fairly new district director, Audrey Bishop. Audrey's from Ashe County. Bob Meek, who was my district director for 5 years, retired. And so if you are contacting our office for help with any issue, Audrey is the person. She's based in Boone, but she also works out of the Dallas office. So I know there's not anybody from that part of the district on this call. This is all high country. But anyway, I want to echo Dennis's prayer. You know, I live right in the edge of Watauga County, a half a mile from Avery, and I get the great blessing when I am home to look out on Grandfather Mountain. And I thank the Lord hundreds of times a day for allowing me to live where I live and to have grown up where I have grown up. And I pray for wisdom and discernment too. So I'm within my time, I think. God bless you all for doing this and for doing what you do.
Well, thank you very much, Representative Fox. We appreciate you being with us today. And if you're available for the Q&A, we'll love to hear from you then also. Thank you very much. Next up, we have U.S. Senator Tom Tillis. If he's available, we'll hear from him.
Hello, this is Stephanie Blair. I'm one of Senator Tillis's regional representatives. I do apologize. He is still hopping on. I believe he had noted that 10:15 time. So
Okay.
He should be joining us quickly, but just real quick in that interim period, do want to mention that. So I'm Stephanie Blair. I'm one of his regional representatives. Jordan Barnes, who some of you also may know, is also one of Senator Tillis's regional representatives here. He is joined in via phone. And so we are here on the ground helping to be the senator's eyes and ears here on the ground, I cover the more northern portion of the High Country COG, and Jordan covers that more southern region there. So anytime we can be of assistance as well, there's a lot of familiar and friendly faces, both from the panelists as well as seeing some of the names on the attendees. So wanted to thank you all, and the senators should be joining us here in a few moments as well.
Hi, this is Representative Stevens. I just want to jump in for a second. Tom came to visit us while we were at the General Assembly and promised me before the end of that meeting that I would have his private number. Can you get that to me? I think he has mine.
I will get you in touch, yes, with the scheduler.
Valerie,
Yes,
while
ma'am.
we're waiting for Senator Tillis, if somebody has a question for me, because I may have to get off before the end of the call, so we've got a couple of minutes. If somebody has a question for me, I'll go ahead and take it so we don't have dead time.
Okay. Victoria, did you hear that?
No, I did not. Sorry, I'm trying to
I'm-
get an email to Angela from Tillis's office.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. What do I need to do?
Well, no, Virginia was asking since we had a few minutes, if anyone had any questions for her that she would try to answer right now, since there's a few minutes, because she may have to jump off.
Okay, yes, I'm
Before the
seeing
Q&A.
one question. Todd, would you like to read that in the chat? If you can't find it, no
Yes,
problem.
I can. Hold on, give me just a minute. I saw it pop up.
Okay.
Let me pull up my chat box. Question for Representative Fox. Does the VA support everyone getting vaccinated?
There is, I think there are mixed messages on this issue. As I recall, I had a letter last week about this, and I can't remember exactly, Todd. I think there are a lot of veterans who are pushing for the Veterans Administration to have veterans be a priority, but I don't believe that has been done by Governor Cooper. The issue we've had to explain to people all along is the federal government has provided the money for the vaccines, has pushed warp speed to get the vaccines done, but the decisions about who gets priority and how the vaccines are administered is totally up to the governor. That's caused a lot of frustration on the part of people. A lot of folks have gotten frustrated with me because I can't give them the answer they want, but it's really up to the governor. I don't know how much control you all have at the local level for setting those priorities, because frankly, again, I'm not meddling in your business, so I haven't followed it closely. But what I've been telling everybody when they've written to me complaining about not being able to get vaccine is to contact the governor's office and their local health department. I personally think the health departments have done a pretty good job on getting the vaccines out under very difficult circumstances. But I'll try to get you an answer for that and let people know. I see there's a question up there. Do I urge everyone to get a vaccine? I do. I got a vaccine. Everybody, I don't know a soul that has had a problem with the vaccine. I will say when I got my second dose, I felt like I had the flu for a day, one day. But I couldn't take the day off. I just worked. And I think most people feel that way. Almost everybody I know feels that way from the second dose, but I think we should do it. We have for years given the smallpox vaccine, polio vaccine, diphtheria, all of those things. And just because we got this vaccine out early, I don't think that lessened its safety. We just cut through a lot of red tape to get it there. And of course, the taxpayers paid for it. One of the reasons it takes so long to get a vaccine done is because the drug companies are very reluctant to spend a lot of money to develop a vaccine and not know what their return on investment is going to be. But because the taxpayers paid for the development of the vaccine, and I'm not sure that's clear to everybody, but that's what happened. That's why it was able to speed up. They didn't have any impediments to going ahead and trying lots of different things to get them to work.
Thank you, Representative Fox. I believe we have Senator Tillis on with us now.
Good morning.
Well, good.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we
sir.
can, Senator.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm only going to be able to join by audio. Hey, Virginia, I'm in transition with PCs and my webcam is up in Washington. So you got me at least on audio and I can see all you guys.
Good morning.
Well, welcome. We're glad to have you, Senator Tillis.
Good morning. And I do have my your legislative priorities in front of me. Thank you all, the High Country Council, for all you guys do. And I'm sorry we're not doing this in person.
Okay, Senator Tillis, at this time, the floor is yours to make any remarks, to let the folks here in the High Country give them an update of what's going on in Washington, specifically in the Senate over in your chamber. And so the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, guys. The main thing that we're trying to do right now, and I was on for about the last 5 or so minutes of Virginia's comments, that the key here is for us to put COVID out of our lives. And the way we do that is by just accelerating vaccines, making sure that people do not let their guard down. Now is the time to run up the score. We're beginning to win against COVID. We need everybody to do their part. We're also looking at the funding, and in all honesty, I did not vote for the $1.9 trillion package because I didn't feel like it was as closely aligned as it should have been with the COVID priorities. We wanted funding for education, for the Paycheck Protection Program. I actually was one of 10 Republican senators that met with Vice President Biden to say that, look, we see $600 billion of need that needs to go out. But now that it's out there, I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to fight for resources in North Carolina. As we move forward, I was just talking with farmers out in Western North Carolina next week. They've got a real problem, and this is a broader problem on labor. I was just told a story about a greenhouse operation, over $20 million investment. They want 50 employees. They did a 4-day job fair. They had about 7 applicants and 3 that ultimately became employees. We've got to work on finding the resources that we need across the state, but I heard it loud and clear just last week on a call with a number of farmers out in your neck of the woods. The other thing that we need to work on, there is resources in the latest COVID package for infrastructure, and that's all kinds of infrastructure, whether it's roads, bridges, or broadband. We need to do everything that we can to make sure those resources get out to the state. Kyle Sanders, who is my Deputy Chief of Staff, is responsible for economic development. Would like to get with all of you on 2 counts. Any of the governments represented, if you're applying for grants, count us in as somebody that can help you. Some of the smaller governmental entities may not have the resources to do grant writing. We can help you at least secure the funding so that you can get a grant writer. Count on us to do that. If you aren't really sure what's available, contact my office. Now is the time to rebuild the economy, get tourism back on track, get our jobs back on track, recover from some businesses that have closed forever, provide the environment from a tax and regulatory standpoint to encourage other people to take risks and contribute to the economy. But instead of me going on and on, I'd like to answer you all's questions, and happy to field any that you may have.
Okay, folks, this is your opportunity to jump in the chat box and take this opportunity to ask any questions of Senator Tillis. Senator, while we're waiting for some questions to come up, I would like for Ashe County, my county, certainly to be part of the conversation in the farm labor discussion. As most of us know, Christmas trees are really the engine that drives our local economy, and my family involved in the Christmas tree industry, and we're seeing that labor challenge at home as well.
Yeah, and quite honestly, this is where we've got to work with some of my conservative friends who this won't be solved purely by providing, I should say, the U.S. citizens. We have guest worker programs. The H-2A and H-2B program are critically important to fill some of these seasonal needs and some of the year-round needs across the state. We have to recognize that we would never want to be in a position to where a guest worker replace someone who's willing to work in agriculture. But the reality is, when we were at the peak of unemployment last year, I was still having the discussions with farmers who don't have people doing the job. And then this supplemental unemployment assistance has been provided now through September, has even discouraged some who may have been in the ag sector from going back to work. But we've got to get a reliable H-2A program, H-2B program, and we can throttle how many we have back and forth based on people who are genuinely willing to go out and do those jobs. But if it's apples, Christmas trees, I haven't found a farmer yet that says they've got crowd control waiting for U.S. citizens to go in and do those jobs. We've got to figure out a way to crack that. And it needs to be done with the problem we have now with the crisis at the border. And you're seeing these thousands of people come across the border illegally. We've got to have a credible strategy for securing the border, and then put resources into getting guest workers in and out. There are a lot of people that work in the ag sector that have been doing it for 20 or more years. They come here, they work, and they go home. That is good policy, and that's what farmers need, to have a reliable source of employees, workers, to get the jobs done. And the other thing the other thing we got to worry about is the price. People say, well, if you just pay them $25, $30 an hour, then you'd probably get more American workers. That is true. That's the good news. The bad news is you're going to be buying apples from other countries and tomatoes from other countries, because it'll be absolutely impossible for us to compete with Mexican, South American, and equivalent products. Virginia, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, I completely agree with you. Having been in the Christmas tree industry myself, I understand. And Tom, I'm not even sure if you paid $25 an hour, you could get the Americans to work in these agricultural jobs. So I just want to say we need a reasonable system. Unfortunately, too many of our colleagues do not want a reasonable system, but I've been working on this for a long time, and I completely agree with you. And Todd, thanks for asking that question, because it's a perennial question.
We've got just a couple more minutes with Senator Tillis on the line before he has to jump off. If anyone wants to jump in and take the opportunity to pick his brain.
Yeah, and it can be, again, let me just go back while we're waiting on a question. I don't see anything in your list of legislative priorities that I don't agree with. Some of this is state purview. Some of it's federal, or a combination federal and state purview. But The one thing that I would ask you all, particularly in an area of the state where infrastructure is so challenged for broadband, if you haven't taken a look at the SpaceX subsidiary Starlink, our office has been working with them for almost a year. You see these news reports of SpaceX launching these rockets with dozens of about dishwasher-sized satellites that are going into space. When I saw that about a year and a half ago, had a meeting, Senator Burr and I met with them, and I asked them, what do we need to do as a matter of state legislative policy to make North Carolina the most attractive state for you to build out broadband across the state? And to the legislature's credit, they gave us some recommendations. We worked with the legislature, they passed it. So we are literally on the brink of being the best connected state with what is now something offered by Starlink. I expect that they'll have competitors. I made it very clear to them, I want an environment that attracts a lot of people to provide broadband options to the most remote areas, rural areas of the state. So if you're not briefed up on that, we can send you an update that we just recently received. It's very exciting. It's high speed. It's low cost, and it's competitive. So that's something that each of you should take a look at. And again, if you want that, I'll make sure. I think I saw Kyle dial in. I'll make sure that Kyle gets it out. If y'all can give us a distribution list, and Kyle's been tracking this, we'd be happy to talk with you about it.
This is Representative Stevens. I was going to ask Senator Tillis a question, one that we seem to have at the General Assembly, and that's what are the limits on this money? What can we use this COVID $1.9 billion for? And what can the counties and regions do with it? Is it wide open?
Well, Sarah, there are one of the aspects of the COVID relief package that I think local governments need to take advantage of is money that can go directly to county and municipal governments. It can be used for infrastructure. It can be matched with state and local funds. So what we can do is they're really digging through it. I mean, it was a 650-page document. A lot of it's going to depend upon the guidelines that the agencies put on it, but there are billions of dollars out there for local governments, county and city governments. One thing I think you ought to do is think about how you team up. So if you're in a county, you've got a few municipalities, you've got a case to build. They're saying that it's going to be based on documented losses from COVID. We're trying to figure out what goes beyond that. But to be fair, we don't even know how they're going to program that part of the bill. We understand the Paycheck Protection Program, the funding for education, although that funding, some of it will not be spent for 5 or 6 years, the way that they've set it up in the bill. But we can follow up with a briefer on the high points on things that you all should be thinking about applying for the resources. It just doesn't all of a sudden show up in your bank account like the stimulus checks will. But there are very clearly billions of dollars of resources available to the local governments, and then some carved out for the state government that could ultimately be appropriated down to local levels. But the mechanics are just now being worked out by the administration. It's good to see your face, by the way.
Oh, thanks. But no, we've seen the breakdown that every city basically gets some money. Every small town basically gets a set amount of money. And so I guess from a state perspective, we've got money. How are we going to not duplicate effort and make sure the funds are used? Because one of the things I did see was that it could be used for bonuses or for raises for people who are in those essential positions. And yet you hate to give money that's going to be non-recurring for a recurring type expense.
Well, that's very, very insightful because to be honest with you, we're almost at a tipping point with our debt. So you have to be thoughtful about where you're spending the money and treat it like the one-time payment that I believe that it will be. It's very difficult for me to see how we'll have the capacity to pass anything approaching what was passed a few weeks ago. And so you're right to think of it as, any sort of infrastructure or one-time expenses are probably the most important thing, or you're going to get yourself into a bind if you make a commitment. It's not technically recurring if it's a bonus for the example that you used, but it is sort of an expectation that that the local governments, the state governments really need to be mindful of.
I think we have a question in the chat, and then Commissioner Johnny Riddle raised his hand. So Johnny, if you have a question, you can go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, so this is for Senator Tillis and Representative Fox. Getting back to the agricultural workers, $25 an hour. You were talking about that. I really disagree with you on that. I think you get hundreds of people to work for $25 an hour.
Right.
I think we ought
That's
to start
true.
with a minimum wage of $50 an hour and see what happens.
The point that I was making is you may be able to get more people to work, but then you price yourself out of that commodity. We know that we're pretty close to the tipping point to be competitive with tomatoes, for example, or lettuce. So that greenhouse operation is stepping up. So if you arbitrarily, first off, I do think that we should have a discussion about the minimum wage. I don't think that it makes sense to have a la prima $15 minimum wage. There are a number of proposals out there where you could move it up and start indexing it to inflation, to where you could move up to that over some period of time. But it makes no sense to me whatsoever when we've spent over $500 billion providing taxpayer money to businesses to make payroll, to then turn around and make the payroll even higher before we've gotten out of the COVID crisis. And then you've always got to be mindful of the cost of labor and the impact that it has on a commodity. I will guarantee you, if you go to a Harris Teeter and you see a North Carolina grown tomato at one price, let's say a Mexican tomato at one price point, and a North Carolina grown tomato at 1.5 times that or 2 times that, that is going to damage the agriculture industry, and it's going to move our reliance to certain foods and the food supply chain outside the United States. And we've seen the disruption of the food supply chain over the last year with COVID, all supply chains, but particularly the food supply chain. We can't forget those empty shelves. Part of the reason why they were empty is some of those products were coming from international jurisdictions. And if we put higher artificial prices on certain agriculture commodities, we're going to see more of that, and we need to see less of it. And Virginia, I don't know if you want to wade into that as well. I think there is a rational basis for. Go ahead.
I think you've done a very good job of explaining it. We're a little schizophrenic in this country. I think we want higher wages. I think it'd be great, but we also don't want the prices to go up. And, I talk about this all the time. I don't know how we can pay people $15 an hour to work at Wendy's or McDonald's and then charge 99 cents for a hamburger. But, if people can figure out how to do that, I'm afraid we will price people out of jobs. We know already that the CBO said 1.4 million jobs would be done away with as a result of raising the minimum wage to $15. So
and it's more a matter of timing. I mean, there's a rational basis for saying how the minimum wage should track up over time. And a lot of that comes down to how do you index it? How do you make it something that a business can absorb? But the reason the CBO estimated about 1.5 million jobs lost, because they'll be lost to automation. I already know of several fast food chains that are already looking at outsource. When you go in and order a hamburger or something, or a spicy chicken biscuit at Bojangles, right now you're talking to somebody that's inside that building. There are fast food chains now that are talking about making that a call center that may not even be in the United States. You may think you're talking to somebody in that store, but you're talking to somebody who's processing the order. That's another job or a couple of jobs on a shift that get lost. And when you scale that up to the United States, that's how you get to the 1.5 million.
Well, and not only that, but you've seen in the fast food restaurants, you go in now and you order for yourself. You don't go up to a human being and order, and you pay by card, and they are going to automation. Walmart's going to you check yourself out. You got the self-checkout centers that are mostly open. My question was, has anybody studied New York, who went to a $15 an hour minimum wage, and now people are saying we can't live on that. We want 30. We're demanding 30. But
Well,
I know, having visited New York, things were out of unreal price-wise.
Sarah, the even better example, it was studied, is what Washington State did. I mean, there were businesses that simply shut down. They could not make the numbers work. Now, you could argue that some of those businesses probably needed to get more efficient, but they didn't, and they went out of business, and people lost their jobs. That's why I don't want it to be misunderstood here. I think that there is a sound, sustainable way to start tracking minimum wage to key economic indicators, and you start, and over time, you give the businesses time to absorb it. Marginal businesses may have difficulty. Other businesses can survive, but you can't all of a sudden wave a wand and say, I'm going to potentially double the cost of minimum wage. We should also make it very clear that minimum wage is a starting point. I worked minimum wage when I was 18 years old while I was putting myself through community college. But it never occurred to me that I wanted a wage. I wanted to get above that wage as quickly as possible. So I think there is a way to do it. But if you do it the way that it was proposed by the House, those 1.5 million jobs will be lost, and they'll be lost forever.
Let me add to what you said, Tom. I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's an extraordinarily small percentage of people who go to work on the minimum wage and then stay there for any length of time. Again, as you say, it's a starting wage, and the plan is that people will develop skills. You want to give people the opportunity to start in a job and develop skills and then move up. I think this is a complicated issue, as you indicated. The hope and what I've been working on for the last several years is how do we help people develop skills so they're worth more than the minimum wage? And you're exactly right. The minimum wage should be an absolute floor. I hate for us to think in this country about ensuring the minimum wage. We want people to see no ceiling. We want a floor, but no ceiling. I started out at a minimum wage too, and all of us probably did. And then as we developed skills, as we gained education, but primarily skills, then we're able to move up. And that's the way we should be thinking. There are always going to be manual jobs that are going to be performed that it's difficult to pay a lot for. But you hope, again, that there'll be a pipeline of people coming into those jobs, learning them, doing them, then moving on to something else, and people behind them to take them on.
Thank you all for your answers to me and for your discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Okay,
Johnny.
if everybody's good right there, we'll go on to our next panelist. And this is exciting for me because it is a longtime childhood friend that I grew up with, and I'm excited to have Representative Dudley Green join us now.
Good morning. I'm not sure if I've got this working right, but good morning. Good to see you.
Hi, good to see you too. So we will turn it over to you, dear. You can speak or whatever you want to do.
Well, I've just been trying to get, I came in a little late on this, and I've been trying to listen to the discussion. It seems like it's a very good discussion you've been having. I am kind of new to this role and been in the last little while trying to feel like, when I learned to swim, my brother-in-law just threw me out in a pond, and I flailed around there till I started doing the stroke right. And I have felt like that I've kind of been flailing around there, but hopefully I'm about to get my head above water and get some sense of where I need to be with it. I have enjoyed the last couple of months trying to get oriented to it and trying to do my best to find out what the issues are that the district needs me to be working on and doing my best to respond to those.
From what I've seen, you're doing very well so far.
Well, I've got a lot of good folks down there helping me with Ray and Sarah and so forth. They've been just great to work with. Certainly appreciate that.
Well, good. Well, we are tickled to have you. anything you want to talk about? Any kind of, I mean, like the committees you're on?
Well, I have, and I guess a lot of the committee work that I'm assigned to, and of course, I was retired sheriff and 30 years in law enforcement, and so I am kind of comfortable in that lane. And fortunately, I was able to get assigned to a couple of committees that are related to that. In the Judiciary too, which Representative Stevenson is our chairman of, and also the Justice and Public Safety Appropriations. So there have been a lot of exciting things that I've been learning about and trying to see how we can help get done. I'm also on the State Land Use Committee, which involves a lot of I'm learning regulations and so forth with regard to building and permitting and that kind of thing, as well as the State Personnel Committee. And a new committee, I think, that's been developed in the House this year, which I was real interested in trying to move forward with mental health reform. My experience in law enforcement made me realize there's a real need for that. And I think that was combined with a couple of other committees, and it's now the Committee on Families, Children, and Aging Policy. And so I look forward to serving on all those committees. And certainly, if there are things that, I mean, specific questions you have for me, I would certainly be glad to try to address those. A lot of the effort from this session has been involved with trying to get our schools reopened and so forth. And that's been a heavy lift, I think, to try to get that done. But I've been happy to be involved with that.
Thank you, Representative Green. I would like to say thank you to Senator Tillis and Representative Fox. I understand they may need to duck out momentarily, but we're certainly grateful for the time that they've spent with us this morning. As you could see, Victoria put in the chat box, Senator Ralph Heiss last minute was unable to make it this morning, and he sends his apologies. But in looking at my screen, I think we might have the pleasure of representative from the Senate and Senator Daniel with us. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but Senator Daniel, if you want to jump in Senator Heiss's time slot, you can introduce yourself and we'll continue down the list before the Q&A session. And if he stepped away, we can come back around to him. So anyway, continuing with introductions. Next up, we have Representative Sarah Stevens from the 90th District, and also she's House Speaker Pro Tem. So we're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think as everybody can see, I'm pretty shy and quiet about, sharing my thoughts and opinions. I see my two freshmen laughing at me, and I know Tom Tillis would be rolling to the floor if I could see him. But no, I've been in the legislature. This is my 7th term. So I've got 12 years behind me. I'm looking at your list of legislative priorities. And of course, the first thing I do is I ask questions about, why, what are the downfalls? What are the problems we might have? In your first one, you talk about seeking legislation to allow counties to include specific language on the ballot, designating how their proposed money would be spent. And I think that is a wonderful idea. And I understand that it's not in law right now. Forsyth County, which is a neighboring county to me, wanted to do it to give teachers raises. Well, that's going to be a long-term ongoing thing. But then again, once they got the money, they didn't have to use it for that purpose. They could use it for any purpose. So I understand you're wanting it to do there. Can we, and legally, can we make it so that it would be binding on you and binding on your future administrations? And then what happens if you do it for water and sewer infrastructure and suddenly all of that's good now? What do you then do with the money? So I think those are some of the questions that we need to ask in order to finish those out. Another one of your priorities that really caught my attention was that you were opposing mandates, unfunded mandates. And I always do. I always try to look, is that an unfunded mandate we're putting down on the county? one of the unfunded mandates you're talking about, there was no state funding available to hire new employees to perform the functions required by DHHS Memorandum of Understanding. Now, I'm assuming that you're talking about the regionalization of social services. And I want to be clear with you because I was part of drawing up that program. We did not intend for you to have to hire any new employees. What we intended was for the state employees to come out into the communities and be there as a resource for you rather than sitting in Raleigh. So if there's something in your memorandum of understanding that's sort of requiring you to hire new employees, please contact me personally, because I want to know what the problem is there. What was the miscommunication with the state? Because you can't imagine that DHHS misunderstood what I wanted them to do. They've tried to backstab me everywhere they could, but that's a whole nother story for a different day. We have been working to expand digital infrastructure and broadband capability. There are those great grants, and we've even extended and expounded on those. And we're trying to get it with public-private partnerships for people who can be perhaps more dependable in the state to continue to provide the services on down the future. And I think it might be a great use of some of the funds that the counties and cities are getting is to do that kind of infrastructure improvements. So I think that's critical. You wanted us to support legislation to protect farming operations from nuisance lawsuits. Well, I voted along with Jimmy Dixon. And for those of you who don't know Jimmy Dixon, he is the state representative who is the farmer's friend. And they had all the nuisance lawsuits down east. And I'm trying to help him come up and craft some legislation on particularly the issue of punitive damages in those nuisance lawsuits. I'm absolutely appalled from everything I learned in law school. So my background is a lawyer. That these people were allowed to sue for a nuisance. They moved to the location and then sue because it annoys them. And I've got some of that same issue in my county with chicken farmers. We've got chicken farmers, and we talk about chicken litter smells like money. But people who move from down north to enjoy our beautiful view and our wonderful way of life move here and then suddenly decide they don't like the smell. Sorry, that's you're in a farming community. Welcome to our world. So that's just part of what I'm interested in and looking at your issues and have some concerns about. Don't want to take up more time than I have to, but we can talk about Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, and we can talk about, I have one of the most beautiful greenways in the entire state, probably. It runs about 7 miles along a river. And to be honest, I thought, why does the state want to spend money to do this? It's nice to have the park. But for us, it was a very different function too. It's flood control, because we've had some massive floods. Water comes off the mountain down to our little foothill community. And this has been tremendous in helping us with the flood control. So I know it's very much an interplay between, parks, recreation, flooding, states, counties, municipalities. So I will sort of jump off there and answer any questions you have or tell you more about me.
Okay.
Trying to help you back on time.
Okay. We'll go ahead then, and we will hear from Representative Ray Pickett.
Good morning. Thank you for having us today. Next time, I don't want to follow Sarah.
Okay. We'll make note of that.
Following someone with that much knowledge of the legislature is tough. Being one of the new guys, I'm like Dudley, as I call it. I'm just starting to get my legislative legs under me and feeling stable with sort of understanding how to navigate the halls of the legislature. And thanks to Sarah for guiding us and helping all the freshmen. She's been our go-to person to help us navigate. And if it hadn't been for her, we would really been lost. So she's helped us. And if you've got a bill that you think you want to do, you go talk to her first, and she may give you the reasons why you better not do this. Or it's been tried in the past and you don't want to go down that road. So thanks to her. But I've read through your legislative priorities as well. And there's some of them that I know that right now are being worked on. There's some other ones that I have some local talks with already. The Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, my wife is working on one of those right now. So I know how important that is to many of the local areas to get that grant funding from that. And the water and sewer infrastructure, there's a big project right here in my hometown that they're getting ready to embark on. So those are some real important things for this area. I know a lot of the towns have some very old infrastructure. I really hope some of this money coming down from the federal government can be used for some of those one-time funds, because like was mentioned earlier, you don't want to use this money for anything reoccurring because it's one-time money. So you have to be careful how you use it, and use it for something that you can pay for and be done with. As far as my committee work, Education University, I've been heavily involved with that one so far. My big one's been transportation. I have met with people around Watauga and Ashe County about transportation, road work. Had a big meeting Friday with the powers that be in this area. And I think we have a good understanding of what we need. Now we just got to figure out how to get it. And that's transportation up here is a big deal. We have a lot of unpaved roads that people need to get to their homes. And that's a huge issue here. And I'm working every day talking with people to get that under control. The health department, I have been in contact with them continuously about the COVID situation. That is COVID funding, and COVID has taken top priority right now, as everybody knows. So I feel very fortunate to be in the district that has a health department that's done a good job. So it's that's been a big thing right now. And hopefully, I really hope that that's about to end. I really do. I want to move on. And this coming week, the governor's dropping his budget this week. So that's going to be a big topic this week, that we're going to be talking about that and heading into our budget in the Senate and coming together and getting a budget for North Carolina. I honestly can't wait to dive into that and see what happens. That's going to be exciting for me, for coming from little small Blowing Rock and our little tiny budget, diving into the big state budget. That's going to be an exciting thing. I don't really have anything else to add. If anyone has some questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Anything from you, Todd?
No, I aggravate you enough as it is, Ray.
Not at all.
You've been more than receptive and hospitable to all my phone calls and emails. So thank you for being with us this morning. And I'm sure some other folks will have something for you in the Q&A session. So we are excited to have Robin Ramsey with us from the office of Senator Richard Burr. Or hold on, Representative Green's waving at me. He might have a question.
Uh-oh.
I was just saying hello to Robin.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay, Robin, the floor is yours to introduce yourself and go for it.
See everyone. First of all, I want to thank Victoria and Julie. They've been great in helping me get prepared for this. And thank you, Chair Lady James and Vice Chair McNeil, for moderating this. And of course, the High Country COG for having me on today. For those of you that don't know me, I've been with Senator Burr for 7 years. I was in the General Assembly with my husband, who was a representative from up here. And I got a call in, it was early part of 2014, and he was going to run again. So he asked if I would come back and be his Western field rep, and I was like, yes. I didn't ask the pay. I didn't ask what the hours were. I wanted to get out of Raleigh. So God bless you that are in Raleigh, because I remember those trips down there. Leave at 11 or 12 on Monday, come back at the same time on Thursday, try and make a life on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. So God bless you. I certainly understand the importance of a COG, because my husband is the executive director and workforce development director of the Land to Sky COG here in Buncombe County. So I understand. Thank you for sending me the legislative priorities. I see those same priorities all across my region. I have 20 counties for the senator. And even though some of them are state priorities. I see some that are overlapping with federal, and I appreciate that. If we have not met before and you would like to meet up for a cup of coffee and chat, I'd love to head out your way. I cover all the counties except for Watauga and Ashe. Mike Finley covers those. I'm sure you guys have met him. I'll put my contact information in the chat box. And of course, Julie and Victoria have my contact information as well. I want to say that I agree with both the senator and the Congress lady, and especially Congresswoman. I'm not going to say Congressman, Congresswoman Fox. I've spoken over the years with their counties and municipalities and talked to them about their wish and need list. And I really hope that they can take some of that and apply the funding from this last bill to, as an office, I think we would really like to see that money spent in regards to infrastructure, or put that at the top of the list, because I think that'll last for years and years and years. You can always reach out to our office for any help on anything the U.S. government touches. If you apply for a grant that has federal dollars attached, we can always write a letter to the agency on your behalf. Senator Burr is the ranking member on the HELP committee, which is the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. So that's going to be his focus this year. This Congress is the HELP committee. And I appreciate each one of you and all you do. And please stay in touch. Let me know if there's anything that me or my office can do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robin. We appreciate you being with us today. And last but not least, on our panelists for today, we have from Governor Cooper's office, Drew Christie.
Well, good morning, all, and happy third day of spring to everybody. I know the sun is shining down here in Buncombe County, and it looks like it's shining up in the high country as well, too.
It is.
So I bring greetings from Governor Cooper. Of course, as everybody's mentioned, COVID is kind of priority number one right now on the governor's mind, but also as Representative Pickett had mentioned, the governor will be dropping his budget this week. Also, this Friday is the expiration of the current executive order. And so Governor Cooper will be holding a press conference either today or tomorrow, or excuse me, Tuesday or Wednesday to discuss the extension or modification of the current executive order as to restrictions for, everything. So keep that on your radar. I'll be sending out an email. If you want to be on my email list, or if you don't want to be on my email list, please let me know. My email, I'll put it in the chat box, but it's drew.christie@nc.gov. And also wanted to talk about what Representative Fox had mentioned about, people getting vaccinated. Right now, North Carolina is kind of hamstrung by the supply chain. Initially, we started out only getting 120,000 vaccines week over week for the state. Now we're only up to about 120. Yes, we've increased about 120 or 100,000, but we're still only getting 220,000 vaccines week over week to be distributed out. The FEMA site in Greensboro, those allocations for vaccines do not come from our state allocation. Those are completely separate. Those come from the federal government. But we're still, and we're only getting right now Pfizer and Moderna. Hopefully by beginning of next month, we should be getting some more Johnson & Johnson. But again, we're just waiting on the supply chain to increase so we can get more vaccines, so we can get more folks vaccinated, because we are, the governor and DHHS are following the CDC guidelines for vaccination protocols. And so that's what we're basing it on, based on our limited number of vaccine allocations. Again, the governor will be dropping his budget this week. And so we'll see what negotiations will go on between the governor's office and the legislature, and we'll go from there. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to y'all.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Drew. We appreciate it. Do you have any?
I don't know, she may bring something, but
I think Teresa Coletta from Burnsville has her hand raised. So
Yeah.
Teresa, you're able to speak now.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to first of all say thank you to Drew Christie and the governor for the wonderful regular opportunities we've had with the governor when he is talking about the steps to take with COVID-19, and they've been very productive, particularly in the small county and town of Burnsville. So, Christie, if you convey my thanks to the governor for his excellent presentations that he keeps us informed. I really don't quite understand. I'm sorry that Representative Fox had to go, but I don't understand how there can be one town manager complains about too much money and what to do with it. Small town. We're living with a water and sewer system that dates back to the 1900s, and we cannot have enough money. I mean, water and sewer is top priority for the industry and also for quality of life.
Teresa, we can't really hear you too well.
Well, I'm sorry, but anyway, I want to say that the water and sewer funds are critical to any town, and I am very grateful for those who voted at the federal level to see that those dollars will be coming. Thank you.
Okay. We also have Wes Brenniger from Sparta with his hand raised.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody can hear me.
good morning, Wes.
First thing I'd like to do is I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Sarah Stevens for her help in helping us during the earthquake, along with the Governor Cooper's office, and Drew Christie. Thank you guys for what you've done. Of course, here we are, little Allegheny County and a little town of Sparta up here in the mountains. And we're still finding out that we've got plenty of damage that we're recovering each and every day. One of the things that I want to talk to you about or ask you about is, yes, that we got 24 million from the state in allocations for this earthquake that hit in August, and that helps for the construction of several homes that was damaged here in our county and in our town. But however, we are finding out that now that our infrastructure, like our sewer line, is greatly compromised, and we did a smoke test last month and had that done, and it looks like that we have about $2 million worth of repairs that we're going to have to do on our sewer line. We did do a report to Raleigh, and those things went through all the proper channels there, and they're kind of giving us a hard time, wanting us to prove that this was earthquake related. Well, that's going to be kind of hard to prove since you're underground. Your sewer is underground most of the time, and when that ground shook at the 5.1 magnitude, it loosened up a lot of things. We're finding out that we got a lot of damage, and we are getting some federal funds. I think we're allotted $500,000 that's coming our way from the feds, and that's all fine and dandy, but that's not going to cut it close, because we have so much infrastructure to repair, and I'm talking about roads that DOT cannot help us with. This is in our town that the town is responsible for, with cracks and sinking in the ground and so on and so forth. Is there any way that you guys can point me in a direction of where we can get some help, get a grant, get some help from the state, whatever? I'll take any advice I can get.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll open that up to any of our panelists who might want to jump in.
Thank you. Wes, contact me, let me know who you talked with and the kind of barriers you're running into. I hear you say that they're saying, how can you prove it happened with the earthquake? But partly, I guess, how do you not prove it didn't happen with the earthquake? So let me know who you've been talking to, where you run into the pitfalls, and we'll see what we can do to help you.
Will do. Will do.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Brenniger. I don't see anything in the chat box currently.
I got one for Drew, Todd.
Okay.
Drew, you mentioned that about no Johnson & Johnson. I mean, currently we don't have any because we have had some in North Carolina, correct?
That is correct. We've only received one shipment of, I think it was 84,000 vaccines from Johnson & Johnson, and that's all that's come. Week over week, we're getting, I think it's 120,000 Pfizer and 100,000 Moderna week over week. But we've only had one shipment of Johnson & Johnson thus far from the federal government. And so, of course, I believe it's because of the supply chain that we're waiting on Johnson & Johnson to produce more. And so I think come, again, I think from what Secretary Cohen has said, the beginning of April is when the federal government should release more Johnson & Johnson out to the states to allocate. Again, I don't know how much we're going to get of that because we've only been assured a week over week total of Johnson & Johnson, or excuse me, of Pfizer and Moderna. But we will be getting more Johnson & Johnson. We've only had one shipment of it thus far.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I was going to say, Drew, I would love to have your help with Sparta. I know the governor personally visited there, and I knew that there were probably water, sewer things that didn't get taken care of. So if you could help me with that, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely, Representative.
All right, thank you.
While we're waiting for some more questions to come up in the chat box, I will read a statement that we've received from Representative Jeffrey Elmore, who was unable to be here today. Dear members of the High Country Council of Government, thank you for your service at the local level. As a former town commissioner, I understand the demands and responsibilities in politics at the local level. The pandemic has created many issues that we've never faced before. You've remained steadfast through the storm. We're moving forward. There will soon be big decisions that you'll have to make dealing with the federal COVID payout. Be wise, deliberate, and focused. Thank you again for your leadership. And that statement is from Representative Jeffrey Elmore. So we thank him for sending that in to us. Victoria, are you seeing anything in our chat box or?
Yes, so Brenda Lyerly from Banner Elk can speak now, I believe.
Okay, Mayor Lyerly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay,
We got
good.
you.
I was on the NC First Commission, and I know that you all have received the outcome of our work for the past 2 years, and I was wondering how you all feel about the concerns we had and how we recommended that you be able to use some of our suggestions to raise some money for the DOT.
Mayor, I have seen that briefly. I have not studied it extensively yet, but I have seen the recommendations, and some of the ones that catch my eye that could possibly be put into the system to raise money for DOT. But again, I have not studied it extensively. Sorry that I can't give you a little bit better answer to that, but I am looking into it.
Thank you.
And I don't deal a lot with DOT transportation budgets. I always turn to Representative Brendan Jones, who's digging deeply into that issue, and I will be happy to see what I can do to follow up. I know that it's been an issue, but I've also been concerned about DOT's lack of transparency, and I don't know if your group had the opportunity to study the audit by Beth Wood, but that was a lot of things that were very concerning, and there seemed to be a lot of waste or unaccounted for money in that issue. So it looks like Senator Daniel joined us. Maybe he's got a lot of answers about that.
Right. I just did notice that, Senator Daniel, we're glad to have you. You're on the spot. You're the sole representative from the Senate today. So you can take some time now and take all the time you need.
Well, good to see everybody. I guess you probably heard that Senator Heiss tested positive for COVID. So just send him our prayers to get well soon. And any topics you would like to talk about, I'm glad to try to do that.
Senator, right now we're just we're rolling through the chat box with any questions that come from the gallery, so to speak. So we're glad you're with us. So hang in there, and we'll see what pops up next.
So I was trying to see if Dudley Green wanted to say something, or he's just waving. You have to unmute.
Both, I guess. No, Mayor Larley, I am not sure that I have seen those proposals that you have. I may have. I'm just not absolutely certain. Is it possible that you could send me a copy or send me another copy of those?
If she can't, either Representative Pickett or I can make sure you get them.
Yeah, I sent them to your office, but I'll send them again.
If you would not mind, I appreciate it. It has been kind of like drinking out of a fire hose down there. So I may have seen it and just not be realizing what in particular you're talking about.
Okay. There. Senator Daniel, did you receive the NC First report that I sent to you?
I think so, but I don't think I could talk to the details of it at this point.
Okay, thank you.
And I think Charles Vines from Bakersville raised his hand for a question.
I saw him come up on the screen. Mayor Vines from Bakersville. Got you on mute, Charles.
Senator Daniels, can you hear me now?
There you go. We got you.
Yes.
Okay, this is Charles Vines from the town of Bakersville. I've been mayor here for several years, going on 30. My question is going to fall back to infrastructure. And earlier, Senator Tillis had indicated there that what come out in the document that we looked at said water and sewer. He said that was more of infrastructure was included in that other than water and sewer. I have concerns about the amount of PAL funds that we receive to help us supplant the paving within the small towns, especially a population of less than 500. There's just not enough of funding, even from a tax-based standpoint, to be able to fund repairs to streets. And DOT doesn't. I have 2 roads that come through Bakersville that are DOT roads, which they take care of those roads. But the street roads and those there's just never enough of money to be. Paving has gone up about 75% over the past 5 years. And it's just so expensive. And one of the biggest concerns that I have and the population of Bakersville has is when we're going to get our street paved. And we're hard pressed to, we've increased taxes twice now in the past 3 years, but still not coming away with enough money to do any substantial damage to repair the roads in town. I just wonder if there's any thoughts or anything about the PAL funds going up more, or is any thoughts of DOT being able to pave streets and we forgive our PAL dollars to pay them back to be able to do that, but it would take many, many years, probably more than I'm going to have left on the earth. But I do have a very serious concern about that. And I had asked one time before for a one-time allocation for funding to try to get some of the streets paved, which fell to the wayside. And man, I do understand that, and I don't have any heartburn about anything that's being done thus far. I just feel like it's been a long time since we've had any type of substantial increase in PAL funds, and paving continues to climb in cost. And also to everybody else that's on the screen tonight, thank y'all very much for your time to come and share with us what's going on, and also willing to listen to what we have to say. Thank you.
So that's definitely a valid point. I don't know that I've heard from other towns on this particular issue. We certainly ought to look into the latest ARP bill and see if there's flexibility to use it for that purpose. You know, Senator Heiss is an appropriations chair, so he might know more about that if he was able to be here. The other thing, when you made your last request, what was the total dollar amount that you thought you needed?
He's back on mute.
Senator Daniels, I asked for $400,000 to try to pave all the streets in town.
So I think that's something that, at least in theory, could maybe be used for some contingency funds. So I believe Senator Heiss is your Senate member, correct?
Yes, sir, he is, and he's the one that I sent the request to. He and Josh Dobson when he was representative there, and met with him to discuss it also.
So maybe we can just visit that and see if this is an allowable use of contingency funding, and certainly look at the COVID funds and see if it could be something could be allocated for that for this purpose.
Yes, sir. And that's when you look at the COVID funds that come out of the 1.9 trillion that come down. All it indicated that I read in there was water and sewer, but there's other things in infrastructure besides water and sewer, and broadband is another one, which I think is something we need to continue to push to. To me, that's infrastructure. Roads are infrastructure, such as what water and sewer is too. And I know there's substantial needs across the state in all of those things. I served on both the Clean Water Management Trust Fund and initial member of the State Water Authority, and I understand the issues that we're having with water and wastewater across our state, and it can't be fixed overnight, but it's going to take a while to do. But I appreciate everything y'all do, and once again, thank you for any consideration that you can give, and continue to support the 100 counties in North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you for expressing the concern you have.
And Charles, let me say it's good to, well, I can't see you, but good to hear from you. And when I can get the opportunity, I will try to find out from Senator Heiss where that went by the wayside, and if there are some ways we can maybe revive that request somehow.
Thank you very much, Dudley. Appreciate it very much. And it's good to see you there. You'll do a good job while you're there, I know for sure.
Well, thank you.
Thank all of y'all very, very much for your time today.
And I will just pipe up and say that I did, in anticipation of this conversation, ask about the Powell bill funds. And for the 21-22 year, it appears we have $143 million, which is a $10 million increase over last year. And that assumes we don't have to take any other kind of reduction. So there should be a little more Powell money coming, and hopefully we don't need to intercept it for anything else. I think last year they said we intercepted about, what was I looking at? $400,000. So we've got some increase and not a hopefully need to intercept any of that.
Thank you.
I see in the chat box we have a comment or a question from Councilman Doug Matheson from Blowing Rock. for our General Assembly members on the call. How do the North Carolina representatives feel towards the discussion of additional unfunded mandates? So I know we touched on this earlier, and Councilman Matheson is posing that question.
Unmute. I'll be happy to chime in first. I do oppose unfunded mandates. The only time we tend to go after any kind of thing, city or county, is if the city or county is not doing what they're required by law to do. So I don't want any, and I looked at your list, and yes, I saw those all as unfunded mandates, and don't want to make sure to pass those on to you. But if we have a state agency at DHHS that is passing some kind of unfunded mandate to you, as I said again, please let me know.
And I will echo what Sarah said. I think we need to make every attempt not to leave a local government strapped with paying for a rule that we adopt if that can be avoided at all.
I'm right there with them. Unfunded mandates are real tough on the local level, so I'm right there with the other two.
I would agree. I would wonder if there's anything in particular that caused you to raise that concern, or if it's just a general concern.
Yeah, I think it was just a broad question coming from Blowing Rock, nothing specific.
Well, and Senator Daniel, I will just say that looking at their legislative priorities, there's some, and I've seen some of these bills come through at times. Fire Department Retiree Pension Fund, that would be an unfunded mandate down to the local governments. Something about trash pickup and trying to enforce litter that originates from the back of a moving pickup truck. Moving pickup truck. And how do they go about enforcing that? And then there's no funding for health departments to perform re-inspections. So apparently these are some bills that have been filed in the past that would be an unfunded mandate.
Victoria, do we have anybody else right now?
I am not seeing anything else. Everyone feel free to type your question in the chat or raise your hand and I will let you say your question.
Since there's no other questions, and since Representative Stevens mentioned the trash pickup, I will go ahead and mention the elephant in the room, at least in Ashe County anyway, but I am daily getting raked over the coals about the roadside litter problem that we have. And, all of us were plugged in and aware that unless you've been living under a rock for the past couple of years, the DOT budget fiasco has trickled down, and it's having very real effects on on our very scenic area here. I applaud Representative Pickett. He's already started reaching out and making a headway to answer some of these questions for us. Is there anything any of the rest of you can hopefully give us some enthusiasm that the DOT budget's maybe going to get turned around and the contract trash pickup on the side of the road will resume hopefully soon?
Could I offer some input there?
Absolutely.
That is one area that I have been concerned about as well, and trying to, matter of fact, Senator Daniel and I were in a meeting the other day where the issue was raised about the possibility of getting inmates back out on the roads doing pickup. And I have tried to find out what occurred with that. My understanding was that there was some hesitance from Department of Transportation. DOT did not want to reimburse the Department of Corrections, or it's now DAC, for the expense and so forth involved with transporting those inmates and so forth. And I don't know whether they had asked for some increased funding or what, but at any rate, DOT apparently felt like they could do it better under a contract situation. And so, you know, in the very committee meeting we were talking about, Senator Daniel and I were in there, and we talked about the possibility of maybe that decision being revisited. I have gone on to do a little bit more research about that, and have discovered that apparently trash pickup efforts and the contracts being awarded for that were suspended after there was some hurricane expenditures that went out. And in fact, it was true that I don't think that there was apparently some disagreement about how much money that they were going to reimburse the Division of Adult Corrections on it. But they did tell me that they were open to discussing that again. But yet at the same time, this about within the last 2 weeks, we also learned about a lawsuit that got settled in relation to COVID, where over the last year, about 6,500 inmates have been released. And then another 3,500 are anticipated to be released this year in an effort to lower the inmate population with respect to that lawsuit that went out. So here's I say all that to say this: if we got an agreement back to get the inmates back to work picking up the trash, I don't know that the prisoners are going to be there to pick up the trash on the sides of the road this year. So that's that is a cause that I have been working on and trying to see what I can look into about it, and have gotten some information about. Let me applaud. I understand this weekend Avery County did a clean sweep operation, and I understand that was very successful, and let me applaud those in those efforts. But hopefully we can get back on an even keel with the state going back to absorbing its responsibility there towards it as well.
Dudley, you're right. My conversation with DOT Friday about the prisoner pickup was brought up, and it seemed to me it was under their impression that it was a whole lot easier just to do contract. So I think that was the road of least resistance is what they did. And I've been assured, at least in Ashland, Watauga, that those contracts are coming back, and they are supposed to be back on the road picking up trash. The proof's going to be in the pudding to actually see them out there doing it, because I know it is a huge concern. I got that from both county managers. The calls are just never ending about getting the trash off the side of the roads. So hopefully those contracts are back up and running again. I've asked them to also put an emphasis on the adopted highway again and get some groups to adopt those sections of highway and get out there and help. In the end, that's going to save us all some money if we can get these roads adopted and get volunteers out there to pick them up. We can put that money to greater use in other places. And let's bring that prisoner work up again, Dudley. Let's look into that again, both of us, and see what we can find out.
Well, I'll do my best to pull from my end if you'll help me push from yours.
And this Representative Stevens, I just want to see if Drew Christie has something to say on behalf of the administration, governor's office.
I'm not well versed enough to speak to this. So I will refrain from commenting because I don't know enough about this particular issue to feel confident providing any info.
I think it might be helpful for some of our people up here in the high country for you to make some inquiries and see if there's some additional information we can get there from the governor.
I know Commissioner of Prisons Todd Ishii has spoken about this, but I from my understanding, again, this is my understanding of it, was that when the revenue shortfall happened in, I think, July of 2019, and there was a hold on all DOT projects, that's when DOT started looking at the contract aspect instead of prisoners. And then, of course, COVID came around, and the coronavirus put a hamper on all prisoner work projects. But that's all the information I have. But yes, Representative, I will look into gathering some more information from the administration.
Yeah, I think everybody's made some great comments. I do think that the DOT, blowing their budget by $750 million definitely caused this crisis. But that's where we are. Representative Green and I are working on a proposal to see if we can get some of our misdemeanor confinement inmates at the county level to maybe be out back on the roads again. So we're going to have to work with the Sheriff's Association and see if
Senator Daniel, we're struggling with your reception there. I'm sorry.
Thank you. And Representative Dudley may be getting ready to talk about this, but I will. Let's make sure it's not an unfunded mandate on the counties as well, because there is enough money in the misdemeanor confinement fund that they should be able to authorize that some of those funds to be used to supervise the jail inmates.
Yeah, I think what he may have been alluding to was, I know there's a bill out there for grant funding that sheriffs can apply for if it can get approved, passed. There's some grant funding that sheriffs are participating in maybe in the misdemeanor confinement program can apply for to work towards doing trash pickup at the local level. But, and I know there's a lot of secondary roads in addition to that. So I still think, that will be great if we can get those on, but hopefully we can get that back on as a priority for DOT as well.
I think we need to work on some additional broadband funding in Senator Daniel's area.
We have a hand raised by Commissioner Dennis Aldridge. Dennis.
Yes.
Dennis, if you're in the room with someone else that's on this call, I think they need to probably turn their volume off. There is a pretty bad echo going on. Also, Todd, I believe Brenda put a comment/question in the chat box.
Right. I see here, Mayor Lyerly from Banner Elk, she did make the comment that there seems to be no laws prohibiting trash falling from trucks or vehicles, which I know was touched on earlier, and that she would encourage maybe some legislation to create consequences for this. Dennis, are you squared away on your end yet, buddy? You're still on mute.
We any better?
Oh, yes, that's much better.
All right. Like I said, this is like a modern seance. Can you hear me now? But no, this may be more of like griping than questions, but two things that come up. One, I heard Representative Green, and I appreciate him so much being from up here in downtown Newland, talk about everything, the hurricanes down east and everything that affected DOT. one thing that we get really tired of up here is that there's no realization that life exists west of I-77. And every year we hear that there are things that happen on the coast that determine what happens to us up here. Hurricanes happen every year, and the 50-mile stretch on the coast sort of pushes the whole state. And I wish there was some way to get around that, but that's just a gripe on my part. But secondly, all this money that's coming in from the COVID Act and all the money that we are receiving, we're getting ready to start budgeting. And it's almost impossible to be working on budgets whenever we don't know how this is going to be appropriated, what it's going to be used for. As Senator Fox was talking, Representative Fox talking about, sometimes money can be a weight as well as a positive thing. And if we don't get some determination on this, it's going to be hard for us to go forward with any clarity. And that's just the same thing we had last year. You were having to hire people to figure out how to appropriate it correctly and not have to worry about having to pay it back later. It's very cumbersome on a small local government to have this hammer hanging over us. If you don't do it, we're not going to tell you what to do, but if you don't do it right, we're going to penalize you.
Thank you, Commissioner Aldridge, for the comments. I'll give just a minute if anybody's got a response.
From the federal government side, I completely understand what you're saying and what each of the counties and the municipalities are going through in regards to this. Like NACO would probably have a really good breakdown once it is figured out, because as you well know, when laws are passed, whether it be on the federal or state level, once it trickles down and it gets to the agencies and we try and figure out exactly how that's supposed to be implemented, that's the key to the puzzle. And I'm sure NACO will come up with something, League of Municipalities will come up with something that will give a really good breakdown. If I get anything from my office, I will make sure that you guys get it. I can send it to Victoria or Julie and have them disperse it. But I'm like you, we're just waiting to see how this is going to be implemented. You can read through some of that bill and get an idea, but when the rubber meets the road, that's what we need to see. And I completely understand and I hear you.
Thank you for that. We've come to the end of our time and run over even a little bit.
Yeah.
So I will turn it over to Chairwoman Jane.
Okay. We've had a couple of already had to leave, Sarah Stevens and Ray Pickett, because I think they were having to leave for Raleigh. So they've already left us, but we appreciate everyone being with us. We thank you for your questions, your attention, and your attendance today. Special thanks to our panelists for taking time from their busy schedules to join us as well. So this will conclude our 2021 virtual legislative day, and we thank you again. Have a great day and enjoy the sunshine. I'm so thrilled to see it. And thank you all for being with us. It's been different, that's for sure, because last year we had it in the end of February, I believe, and we had snow on the ground. So, but this virtual thing was really different, but it's very nice to see y'all and enjoy your day. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
See everyone.
Oh, and there's other counties that are looking for POW bills too, just so you all know. Thank
Good to
you.
see y'all. Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you.